what we saw in the special election down in South Texas is maybe that's not true. Maybe Hispanics and others living in those border communities actually want a secure border, actually want an orderly process, because they want to live their lives free of any security issues down there.
And now to the mass of people coming across the southern border. To put this all in perspective, 220,000 people came across the southern border in the month of May alone. That's nearly half the total population of the state of Wyoming. Is this really what the Biden administration wants to have happening, and to what end? Chad Wolf was the former acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security for President Donald Trump, and he is joining us now. Chad, thanks very much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
That's just one of the numbers. There have been over 800,000 gotaways since the beginning of fiscal year 2021. Is this a result of more and more people coming to the United States because they get word that the border is open, or is it a lack of enforcement, or both?
Well, it's certainly both. You know, we continue to hit historic numbers for all the wrong reasons. The numbers that you just cited, obviously the month of May is a historic number. It's the highest we have ever seen in the history of our country on illegal apprehensions. But it was, you know, it beat a record of April, which was the highest on record at that time, which beat the month of March, which is the highest on record at that time. So if you look at sort of the trend line and where we're going in completely the opposite direction. And to just give you a perspective, you know, you have to go all the way back to the month of March 2000 to have a 30-day period, 1 month, where you have over 200,000 illegal apprehensions. But in the Biden administration, it's been 5 months of that. And so you have to say that the root causes of this illegal migration that we're seeing are because of the Biden administration's policies. It's what's driving, it's what's fueling these individuals to come north, because they know if they get across that border, in all likelihood, they will remain in the United States.
You know, one of the remarkable things about all of this is the lack of media coverage of this entire phenomenon. Fox News has been doing a really good job, and one of the reporters, Bill Malugin, especially brings these fresh numbers almost on a daily basis. He's doing a great job. But and there's apparently word of a new migration en route. Do these numbers include that new massive migration that's en route to the border, or is this before that new migration?
Yeah, so these are just the numbers that they apprehended at the border, and again, it was for last month.
Yeah,
it was for the month of May. So any new individuals coming to that border that haven't quite crossed yet in the month of June, we won't see those numbers until the month of July, more than likely. But I think it's important to remember, we keep hearing about caravans approaching the border, and we heard one maybe it was a week to 2 weeks ago, about 15,000 folks coming in caravan in unison up to that border. That's just 2 days. That's just 2 days of the amount of people that Border Patrol apprehends. So every 2 days is 15,000 people. And so you continue to multiply that over a matter of weeks and months, and you start to realize the influx of individuals that are coming across this border and that are being released into the country. So again, if we look at the month of May, you had about 95,000. Again, according to DHS's own numbers and statistics, about 95,000 individuals that were released into the country just in one 30-day period alone. And so, again, you start to multiply that over a number of months and then years, and you start seeing what's occurring here. And why is that important? It's important because now, you know, a lot of these minors that are coming across are going into public school systems. And if you don't plan on that and you don't resource that properly, what does that do to the teacher situation there? What does it do to our healthcare system? Vast majority of these folks don't have healthcare. Don't have healthcare insurance, I should say. And so they're going to go to emergency rooms when they get sick. And so what does that do? And the list goes on and on. There's a lot of second and third tier consequences here that are really, really important for American people to understand. It's why you have a controlled border. It's why you're supposed to have a process so that you can plan and that you can protect communities. And so, unfortunately, we're seeing the complete opposite at the moment.
Right. The cost of educating many of these kids, many of whom cannot even speak a word of English, is tremendous. It costs local taxpayers and local school districts lots and lots of money, and you see very little reporting about that as well. You must be in touch with former colleagues. The morale among border agents must be just horrific, given what's going on. Do you have any inside information?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think the morale is probably at the lowest that we have ever seen inside the Border Patrol. Look, these are individuals that have been faced with this deadly crisis for now 15 months. And these are individuals that live in these communities along the border. And so they go back and forth to work every day, and they start to carry this home. And it starts to weigh on them. And they're looking for help, and they're looking for leadership from the political leadership in D.C. And instead, they have a secretary that says, almost on a weekly basis, that the border is closed, the border is secure, and we have operational control. And that's just simply not the case. And the men and women of the Border Patrol, law enforcement officers, know the truth. And so they get disillusioned and they become frustrated. And so there's hiring problems, there's retention problems. You're seeing more and more folks seeking early retirement and the like. And so, yes, absolutely, there is a crisis inside the Border Patrol at the moment. And I think a lot of them feel like at this point, because of so much of the catch and release that they are doing, that they are actually part of that human smuggling network. They are working hand in hand, unfortunately, one could view it, with the cartels, because what happens when the cartel sends these individuals over, Border Patrol picks them up, feeds them, processes them, and then releases them. And it's exactly what the cartels want.
So it's no coincidence we're seeing this tremendous spate of fentanyl overdoses and deaths as a result of that, among many, many other things. There's also this case on the subject of bad morale about these officers who were accused of horse-whipping Haitian migrants who were trying to cross the border. In fact, they were not trying to whip the agents, as we now know. That's been pretty much confirmed. But the administration tried to prejudge their fate as well. What's the latest with that? I understand they're trying to appeal this administrative punishment which they face.
You're right. This is probably one of the most despicable circumstances I've seen during the Biden administration, and that says quite a bit. These are law enforcement officers on horseback that were doing their job. They were sent, in this case, to the water's edge by their superiors to enforce the law, to make sure that folks would not cross illegally, that there was some process and order to it. And I think the video is very clear. They weren't whipping any individuals. They were doing that for their horse, to control their horse, which is very difficult to do in those circumstances. But you're exactly right. The administration, from the president to the vice president to the secretary, are very quick to judge because it didn't fit their narrative. And the narrative was, law enforcement's bad, and they're preying and they're somehow demeaning these individuals coming across the border. And the exact opposite was true. And so what the administration actually should be doing is apologizing to these officers. These are individuals now, we're going on 10 months, 9 to 10 months, that have been on administrative leave, that have not been able to do their job because of political positions that their leadership has taken. And that's not the way it should be. Law enforcement should be able to do their job, investigate if you need to, conclude the investigation quickly, and let there be finality to it. And there's been anything but over the course of the last several months. So I think the administration owes them an apology. And instead, we keep hearing about administrative violations. And that's just a way for the administration to save face on a situation that they know is no longer true.
In 30 seconds or so, Chad, what is, in your view, the ultimate goal of this administration's open border policy?
Well, I think there's a couple of different things. One, they don't believe in enforcement of immigration law. They believe if anyone comes across that border and seeks asylum, then they get to remain here in the United States for an indefinite period of time. And that's just not right. It's not what the law says specifically. And so they don't like to enforce it. I think there are some that look at the politics and believe, look, if we allow these individuals in and we give them amnesty at some end of the day, well, then maybe that helps us politically or not. I'll let others decide whether or not that's true, but I think there's certainly a factor to that we've got to look at. And I think what we saw in the special election down in South Texas is maybe that's not true. Maybe Hispanics and others living in those border communities actually want a secure border, actually want an orderly process, because they want to live their lives free of any security issues down there. So I think this narrative is starting to change on the administration, and I'm hopeful that they'll change course and they'll change strategy, and they'll actually implement some policies that are making that border more secure, more process-oriented, and we can bring some safety back to not only the communities along that border, but all across the country.
We will see, and perhaps it will change if there is indeed a red wave in Congress that changes Congress's leadership, but we don't know that yet. Chad Wolf, always appreciate your perspective. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thanks, guys.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going. by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.